need to be in episodes, just like with 50, where we had like episode Prompto, episode Gladius, episode Luna. You all know about that one. Say it isn't so. Are you telling me we're going to get a fourth game? No. I don't know about this, guys. I'm worried about this. So, today we're going to be reacting to Final Fantasy VII Remake, Part 3 DLC, a fourth game by Sector 6. So, a lot of speculation has been going around this remake, and I don't know. I'm feeling weary right now, guys. So, let's dive in.
So an interview's dropped in the last 24 hours that was conducted around the time of Tokyo Game Show. And it's an interview with a group called WCCF Tech. I'll put the link in the description so that you've got all the details and you can go and read the full article. And this is probably the one that's got the most interesting comment so far that I've seen, at least. Most of the interviews have been the same stuff that we've been hearing all along, nothing new, keep people guessing. But this one was interesting. So the interviewer asked, are there any plans for a DLC to bridge the gap between Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and the third title in the remake project, in the same way that there was a DLC with Intergrade? And Hamaguchi's response is that there were definitely some ideas to create a Rebirth DLC. That was the plan at one point, but when we revisited the topic and thought about priorities and what the fans are looking forward to the most, we figured that what fans want the most is the third instalment as soon as possible. That would take priority over a Rebirth DLC, so we decided to take that approach. Everything's fine so far. This is all stuff that we knew.
Okay. I feel like if we do get part 3 first, we possibly might get, say it with me, guys, Advent Children. Advent Children, oh my gosh. If we get like an Advent Children DLC, kind of like a after years, kind of like FF4, where the game ended. Epilogue. We've got like an epilogue of the series. That would be interesting. But the thing is, I feel like we should get like an Advent Children during, just so we can kind of see the sort of the relationship between like Sephiroth and stuff, because I do know with the Before Crisis, I can see like young Sephiroth, the Masamune and everything. Like there's a lot of questions which I have because I haven't seen that game on the mobile, but at the same time with Advent Children, a lot of people haven't also seen that, especially with the Remnants and everything with Part 2 and Remake, where there's all these other dimensions and it seems like there's going to be multiple Sephiroths. I mean, it's confirmed there is multiple Sephiroths, so Advent Children would just make sense in a way.
But then Hamaguchi continues, with that being said, once we release the third installment, there is a possibility of having a DLC for the third installment. With the conclusion of the remake trilogy, there's probably going to be a much wider audience for Final Fantasy as a whole. Interesting.
Yeah.
Whether we bring another new DLC or a full title, that's something we are actively considering. So let's just unpack that. First off, we already...
Okay. A brand new title for like 7. So we got Before Crisis, Crisis Core, After Crisis, The Crisis. What can we possibly get?
We knew there wasn't going to be a Rebirth DLC. This was made clear to us about a year ago, if I remember correctly, so that's fine. As far as the possibilities for a DLC for Part 3, that's also something that I've kind of spoke about, and I've said that if there is going to be a DLC, it's not going to be until Part 3 is out. That's what I was expecting, and that once Part 3 was out, we'd probably get some DLC. So again, I'm not entirely surprised by this. But then the first thing that he says that's interesting is that, you know, Final Fantasy is going to see a much wider audience after the remake trilogy is completed. That suggests to me maybe something big's coming that's going to be a big talking point and maybe drag a lot of people in. Maybe they're just saying that the spectacle of Remake Part 3 is going to be enough to drag people in. I'm 50-50 on whether that means anything more. I'm not too sure. Let me know what you're thinking, obviously, on all of this in the comments below. But The thing that set me off the most is this possibility for a full title, because that could mean a couple of things. It could mean...
Not to interrupt, but I did hear, because obviously I do watch a lot of lore videos, that they might do like a sub-story with these these geese. And if that is a possibility, if that's what he's going to say, then we're totally on the same wavelength right now. And I think a lot of you guys probably do know this as well, because that is kind of circulating about kind of like these sort of forebearers of the planet, and it is kind of like an in-depth sort of storyline. So if they were to do like a quick DLC of it, where maybe you're Yuffie or you're maybe someone like Bugenhagen or something, and you're kind of seeing the planet unfold, or not even seeing the planet unfold, but even being like a young Aerith. Damn. Let's have a look, man.
Or Final Fantasy VII, which we'll get to in a minute, but it could also mean a full title as in working on a new Final Fantasy, potentially. I'm not too sure. We need some clarification on that. And I am at London Comic Con on Friday, and so is Naoki Hamaguchi. So if I get the opportunity, I might see if I can get some clarification on that.
So me too. I'm going to be there, but this is what I'm going to bring. This is getting signed. Yeah. Now can you get this side, bro? I don't want to ask some questions about this future title. We also need 13, but this is definitely getting signed by one of the three. I'll say this right now, guys. But yeah, let's have a listen though.
Final Fantasy, potentially. I'm not too sure. We need some clarification on that. And I am at London Comic Con on Friday, and so is Naoki Hamaguchi. So if I get the opportunity, I might see if I can get some clarification on that. I'm probably not going to, but I'm going to try. We'll see what happens. But as far as talking about a new full title goes, it takes me back to something that I thought quite a while ago, around the time just after Remake came out. And this was the belief that I had, that they were going to need at least 4 games to do this story. Like, given the fact that they've still got so much ground to cover of the original game, and then they've got all this new stuff on top of it that they need to explain and pay off and things like that, I didn't think they could do it in 2 more games. I thought it was going to be 3 more games at least. But then that was cast aside because I believe it was Nomura who came out and said, no, it's a trilogy, 3 games. So that was the end of that. I stopped thinking. It was like, oh, it's only 3 games. Cool. They're going to do it. They're going to squeeze it in. But now, that may have changed. Anyway, let's talk about DLC first. As far as DLC possibilities go, you know, there's some big favourites. You've got Vincent DLC. Everybody loves Vincent. A Vincent DLC would be great. Potentially a Cid DLC maybe as well, because Vincent and Cid, we get them, you know, we've not even controlled them yet. We're only going to be controlling them in Part 3. So maybe they get a DLC to give them a bit of extra screen time. Maybe that's a thing. You never know. Wutai is also a possibility, I think, for DLC, because they want to... They seeming...
That's the thing, there's so much possibilities we can do. And if they were going to squeeze these in DLCs, I don't think it would make sense. I feel like it would need to be in episodes, just like with 15, where we had like episode Prompto, episode Gladius, episode Luna. Well, we all know what happened with that one. Episode Arden. So yeah, I feel like realistically the best thing they could do is episode Cid, episode Vincent, episode Wutai, or like Wutai War, or episode Yuffie again, because obviously the Yuffie one was really good with Intergrade. And then if that's not the case, then Dirge of Cerberus, which is going to be its own standalone game, or like its mini game, kind of like a Crisis Core, maybe like 30, 20 plus hours. Obviously we got the AC, Advent Children, which I can definitely see as a game, but they may make that into a movie. But if it ever gets to that point, I feel like that would be a PlayStation 6, which would suck if the final part, or there was like this exclusive part which is going to be on another console, which will kind of be annoying because it won't be all confined onto one generation. But I feel like that could be a possibility. Let me know if any of those theories would make sense to you guys. I think the episodic one will make sense. I feel like most people would agree on that.
They want to expand Wu-Tai quite a bit with the whole Glenn thing and everything like that, and the war and all that business, but I kind of expect most of that to come up in the main narrative, so maybe not a DLC, maybe something Advent Children related, maybe something weird and a bit more obscure, like maybe some live stream stuff, maybe a DLC where we interact with Knights of the Round.
Kind of summarize this, yeah. This is a very interesting video, and shout out to Sector 6 about this, but what do you guys think? Based on my synopsis, I definitely think it might be episodic. I think that would be the best way going forward, but let me know what you guys think in the comments, and yeah, I can definitely do another video on this. But yeah, take it easy guys. Peace.